This week exposed something I couldn't ignore anymore. I had ideas I could clearly hear, but they weren't coming out the way I wanted. So instead of forcing more drills, I turned the frustration into an experiment. I built my own speed exercise inside real music. And by the end of the week, the ideas finally stopped waiting for my hands to keep up. Hello. For those of you who are new here, my name is David. I am 33 years old. I quit my corporate job in hopes of building a life that I'm proud of and hopefully a life that I won't regret. And for the next few months, I'm committing to practicing 5 to 6 hours a day for 6 days a week with the specific goal of taking my improv skills from beginner to advanced. And I just wrapped up week 3. First of all, holy shit, the 3 weeks went by super fast. But yeah, this week kind of surprised me because I went into it with this big discovery last week that in order for me to improve my speed, I needed to shift from chromatic exercises to practicing licks. And honestly, it felt like a win because licks felt way more fun, more musical, and more practical. But very quickly, I ran into the same exact problem. Doing the same 3 licks for about an hour and a half for 5 to 6 days gets really boring. And when you're putting in this many hours into something, boredom is not just any small little thing. It's actually pretty dangerous. And something that I'm constantly thinking about as I'm going through this journey is how can I mitigate the biggest risk, which is burnout? Because of course, burnout just leads to you quitting. So I wanted to frame this in a different way. I started asking, how do I continue to do something that is necessary for my growth, but is repetitive? How do I maintain this consistency without losing motivation? And I've come to the conclusion that the answer is you have to create this positive feedback loop. You have to figure out a way that makes the work itself rewarding, not just the end result. So let's use speed as an example. If I want to play faster, there's no way getting around it. I have to play faster, I have to practice faster, and I have to do it over and over and over again, week after week. Now, the biggest problem is speed drills are brutally boring. So I tried something different out of pure frustration. I put on a backing track at a tempo that was much faster than I was comfortable playing, fast enough that I couldn't play 16th notes cleanly. I came up with my own 5-note lick and tried to play it in tempo. And of course it was sloppy at first, but I literally just brute forced my way through it. And something interesting happened because after about 5 to 10 minutes, I could feel my fingers slowly catching up to the tempo. So that got me pretty excited. So I moved to another part of the neck and I came up with another pattern, another lick, except descending this time instead of ascending. Whenever I would get kind of bored of a particular lick or I got too frustrated because I couldn't get a particular lick in time, I would just move on. I would just move on to the next part of the neck. I would come up with a slightly different variation. And that completely circumvented this whole issue of just brute forcing my way through a drill that's extremely boring and extremely repetitive. And it just didn't feel painful. And even in between practicing and kind of repeating these licks that I created on my own, I would sort of take a break from that and just play along with the backing track. It didn't need to be speed related. It didn't need to be 16th notes. I could just play a fun little quarter note or 8th note melody. And then I'll get right back into playing those 16th note licks. And eventually, to a certain degree, it just felt like improvising. And for me, that's when it clicked. If one of the biggest challenges to pouring in as many hours as possible into practice is boredom, then I would say the antidote requires 3 variables. 1, you have to make it feel like playing and not practicing or training. 2, you have to introduce variety and creativity. 3, you have to see improvement because improvement can be really addicting. And I also think that there are some important additional benefits, not only improving speed. Obviously, since I'm trying to improve my improv skills, I realized that by doing this exercise, I am allowing myself to have more time with these scale positions, and it allows me to get more familiar with the major, minor, and the pentatonic shapes. Secondly, since you're literally creating your own licks, you get to exercise that creativity aspect of learning the guitar, not just mechanically following someone else's licks. And kind of to add to that point, later when you actually go to do your own improv, it becomes much easier to naturally incorporate the licks that you came up with because those kind of come from a more intuitive place from your own musical sensibilities. It becomes less of a conscious effort to pull out some licks mechanics that you literally drilled for hours throughout the week. Kind of like the last benefit that I noticed was eventually these speed improv sessions started to just feel like improv. And I think that's the ultimate goal, when practice starts to feel like play. But I will admit, at the end of the day, I am still very new to all this. These are just my personal experiences through my own observations. And for me, this really feels like I'm chipping away at this problem of trying to figure out how to make these long hours sustainable. Yeah, it felt like a really cool breakthrough this week. I'm really excited to see how my speed improves, to see how my improv improves in the future. So if you want to keep climbing this mountain with me, be sure to subscribe and come join me on this journey. Let's do it.